What is going on, everybody? On a day when most people in most industries, they're off. They're doing God knows what, because really, I was talking to Dave before this show started. There isn't much to do from December 26th up until January 1st. I have a podcast in the past that I named this The Lingerer's Paradise, because you're just in a state of lingering. Are you exchanging gifts? A lot of people going to the mall. You really want to be on those mall lines. But then again, with digital shopping, are there still mall lines? I don't know. Why don't you let me know in the comments? How's that for some random engagement driving or whatever the hell they tell me to do at the top of these videos? But we're here. It's week 17. It's the finals. If you're in your fantasy football championship, congratulations to you. What I realized, it's a weird dynamic having the last week happen right around the holidays, because ultimately, what do you have to do if you're running any league? Dave, you've talked about random commissioner duties in the past. You have to ask people for money right around that time that they really can give it to you the least. Right after the holidays, they're broke, and then you have to ask them for their league buy-in. Yes, if you're younger, you're going to force it out of them beforehand because they'll probably shiest you. But after a certain age and people are legitimate human beings, they kind of built up some credit. But it doesn't make it any easier that it's, December 26th, and you're telling your friend, yep, cough up to 500, buddy. So that's where we're at right now. We're in that week between Christmas and New Year's, bringing you week 17 of a Dave and a Dan. Dave, Merry Christmas, Kwanzaa, all that stuff.
Yeah, it was Kwanzaa.
Don't they believe there's like, oh no, that's the, who are the people who knock on your door and ask you, how are you doing?
Yeah, Jehovah's Witness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't they believe there's like 48 spots in heaven? It's like a fantasy draft queue, and once it's full, there are no spots left. So they tell you, look, there are no spots in heaven, so you got to kind of do some stuff down here while you're alive.
Possibly. I think it's also like you're basically climbing like a moral ladder or something to get there. I don't know. There's some interesting stuff. Yeah, I celebrate Christmas, and I hope you guys had a good Christmas, or like Andy said, whatever it is you celebrate. And we're back. You're right. This is the dead zone, man. It is. It's the dead zone up until New Year's Eve. And I will tell you, too, when it comes to these leagues, I'll commission one sometimes each year, and it's a guillotine league that I throw out on Twitter, right? And it's people I know, some people I don't, but it doesn't matter. Everybody outside of like my two close buddies that are on my hockey team and stuff, that doesn't matter because I know I'll get paid from them. I tell people when we set it up, the draft is whatever. You have 24 hours to pay me. And if
this guy's having a conversation with the Albanians like Liam Neeson in Taken. You have 24 hours to get that buy-in.
But here's the thing, man. It's not like that. I don't want to deal with it. I already don't want to do it. People ask me to do it each year. I say, fine, I'll do it. So it's like, listen, because a lot of these people, you don't really know them. It's like, all right, have your buy-in to me by this time. So then if you can't do it, then I'll replace you with somebody, but I refuse to chase people down. I won't do it. That's why I hate doing commissioner work. There's been times where I've had to pay out of my own pocket to people, not a lot, but still. So yeah, you just listen, you have until this. If you can't make the payment, that's okay. No big deal. You're out of the league though. That's simple. If you're ever commissioning a league, I would recommend, it'll save you a lot of stress in the end. To just tell, unless it's like a good buddy that is good for it, it's just easier to be like, pay before the league starts, or I'll find the replacement.
Yeah, as I told you, there aren't like leagues like that. There's a high school league and the college league, and they're all good for it. But you still have to ask them,
Right.
And also, we have so many fees that we do throughout the year to try to jack up the pot. If you make a trade, it's $25. If you go over 15 moves, every move is $5. Finishing last, it's $150. Second to last is $50. So we have all these extra fees that have to be collected anyway. Yeah, we're like the government. We tax you like the Canadian government. And you Winnipeg folk up there who watch my videos, I know there's a fair share of you. You know what I'm talking about. So when it comes to DFS, one of your semi-specialties over there, Definitely not as focused on it this year, but what I always used to say is the last week of the season is just straight carnival work where
Hell.
yes, and now ever since they increased the schedule and they threw in that extra game, I've contended that week 17 is the semi-carnival. Where it's like kind of some of that stuff apply. Okay, this guy really isn't getting work. Why are we even throwing him out there? This year, I feel like just because of scheduling and teams who have a random outside chance, we're at least seeing the majority of teams kind of looking the way they're supposed to be looking here. But there are elements of like a scam kind of fake carnival week in this second to last week of the season.
Oh my God, yeah. Now, does it come anywhere close to comparing with Week 18? No, definitely not. The other thing too is with Week 18, you've got all of these from a DFS perspective. You got all of these games that are 1 or 4 o'clock, right? It's like everything's played in that window. There's no Thursday night football. There's no Monday night football. So they jam every game into that window. And I know sometimes there's been Sunday night games. Sometimes there haven't been. I don't know if that's an implications thing. Like, remember the other year, there was an awesome one where the Lions beat Aaron Rodgers and the Packers and forced them out of the playoffs. I think there's still going to be a night game, but who knows what the implication. Either way, there's going to be 15 games.
I bet you I can tell you what it is. It's going to be Vikings-Packers. It has to be. That's going to be for the division, I predict.
Vikings-Lions.
I'm sorry. They play the Packers this week.
Yeah, you're right.
I assume it's going to be a tough game, but maybe this will lead us into the spreads. I just think the Vikings find a way to win this. It's just I'm a Murphy's Law kind of guy. Even not what can go wrong will go wrong, but for the NFL, what can go right will go right, as we talked about last week. Guess what? The games matter this week, as you predicted. They would not have 2 weeks of games not mattering. A lot of those games, the Indy game matters, the Dolphins game matters, the Cincinnati Bengals game matters. And I think in order for that last game on the last Sunday to mean something, you need the Vikings, who are really just playing incredible when it comes to Sam Darnold.
Oh, yeah.
All situations. Trailing on the road, Seattle, fourth quarter, Darnold drive, wins the game. I think they find a way to win that game at home, which means that entire Sunday night football to end the season will be for the number 1 seed in the NFC, which is a fantastic way to end the season. And I think any sort of, just value alone, any sort of Vikings futures, not saying even Super Bowl, but the division was like plus 300 and winning the conference is so. I think they have a sneaky path. That can all get derailed if they lose to a very good Packers team this weekend. I think these Lions are a scam now with this fraud defense. I don't care that they pulled out all the tricks on offense. I think they're way more capable of falling behind than they were previously. And then you got shaky Goff in the pocket, and the other team knows that he has to pass it every down. And I think the Vikings are set up to win the division, which means they get a bye, which means you essentially only have to win 2 games to get to a Super Bowl. That's just me thinking out loud last night in terms of value.
I see it. Vikings are a great football team, and I keep being wrong on this, but I feel like eventually those injuries have to catch up with Detroit, like against a good team. I don't know. That's going to be a fun game.
You saw it 2 weeks ago. They had to onside kick with the full fourth quarter
against a good team. And by the way, we talked about it on this show once again. Just the level, the NFL is such an interesting league. Once you start seeing how things play out. It kind of opens your eyes, and it'll take someone a long time to be able to see it through this lens. But we talked about the Bills coming off of that massive statement game of the year win against Detroit, and then having a tough time potentially getting up the following week against New England and potentially coming in flat, and 14.5 is a lot of points. That game ended up being decided by 3 points. It's a funny league, but there's a lot of people out there who would look at that final score and go, how in the world was this possible? Or like the Eagles against the Panthers. How was this possible? It's just it's the way the games are played. It's every week. None of these teams are just trying to lay down. And you had a divisional spot with Drake May and a young football team. Like, all right, let's give them a run for their money. Doesn't always work, but man, have we not seen a ton of that this year? Teams just coming off statement wins or huge blowouts, come in and sleepwalk through the next game, even if they escape it with a win by the skin of their teeth.
I think that's natural psychology, in my opinion. You
Yeah,
know,
it is.
What I say in my hockey videos, it's tough for the Florida Panthers to get it up for that 4 at the bar, and they often find themselves getting shut out by the Calgary Flames. And then in the very next game, they'll go into Edmonton and score 6 goals and beat McDavid and the Oilers, which is exactly what they did. So it's just it's very weird from week to week. When I played a good opponent in NHL, I brought the defense. I was a rigid player. But then when I played one of my friends who I knew wasn't good, literally I'm just dicking around the first 2 periods. And many times I'm like, oh shit, I'm down 3-2 in the third, and then I gotta kind of crank it up. I think it's just human psychology. And yeah, that was just me comparing my NHL skills to actual pro athletes in the NFL like Josh Allen, who's on an MVP campaign. But I think that this Packers-Vikings game might be a good place to start simply because it's pretty fascinating. We have a... Wait, why? I would have been dead wrong if you came into my pizzeria and you asked me to deliver a spread on this. Why?
What would you have had? Like Vikings minus 2.5?
3.5, I'd say. They're even better than a field goal. What the hell? What is this? The Vikings have been nothing. They've been more convincing than the Lions.
This is one of those games that feels... So, does this...
I don't like this. I don't like this,
That's
Dave,
what I was going to ask.
Everybody's... Yeah, everybody's on Minnesota. How can you not be?
These spots feel so... Whenever I see something like this, it doesn't mean that the Vikings can't win, obviously. It feels trappy. You see the Packers as a 1-point favorite on the road in Minnesota. Minnesota's 13-2, by the way. That feels real trappy. I mean, that feels like the prototypical Packers bet right there, Andy. I'm serious. That feels like a Packers bet.
It is. I told you just how I felt in general.
Yeah, right.
A macro level, just looking from the outside. Really, the same approach that's taking me and you to both say the Packers are the right play here is what made me take the Vikings for the futures that I was just talking about. How it sets up well for them, even though they're kind of somewhat under the radar in terms of like winning the conference and stuff like that. But I see this. The Vikings smacked the Packers in Green Bay. They are winning every game. Last game, it's not like it was ultra convincing, but you're not getting Sam Darnold blow-up games. You're getting unbelievable play from him. And because the Packers laid an absolute beatdown at home to whatever was left of the New Orleans Saints, this has me very scared. The best part about this bet is that I look at the date and it says December 29th, 2024. And as we've learned so far this year, Dave, 2024, like, you know how there's Chinese New Year's, the year of this, the year of the elephant, the year of the one-eyed walrus. Well, this has been the year of the Dan, and there's been no mistakes about it. We just saw the Chiefs destroy Pittsburgh. We just saw Baltimore destroy the Texans. The Dans are running wild here on the inception inaugural year of a Dave and a Dan. So year 1 goes to Dan. Congrats. We'll see how year 2 goes. Year 2 starts after week 17. But look, we got, hopefully for me, one more week of the Dans here, because although I'm telling you the right side to click here would be the Green Bay Packers, I am going to go with the Minnesota Vikings because the tinfoil hat crowd, what supersedes here? You can have the number 1 seed on the line with the whole country watching 1 week from now, next Sunday night. All ruined if the Vikings... Wait a minute, Dave. I need you to figure out. They have the same record. If the Vikings lose this week, but then they beat Detroit and they end up with the same record, who the hell takes the 1?
you have to look at the tiebreakers. I don't know when this is coming out, but the Thursday night game, Seattle and the Bears, the tiebreaker for that is insane. So if the Seattle Seahawks lose, it's the same thing as them winning this week, because the only thing that matters is the Rams losing against Arizona. So if the Rams were to, I'm going to tie this all back because it's wild. If
No,
the
it's good to know this anyway.
Yeah, man, I heard so many people today being like, Seattle Seahawks, big implications. Their playoffs hopes aren't dead yet. It's like, yeah, dude, but you're missing the whole story. The implications have nothing to do with this game. The Rams play on Saturday night against the Cardinals. If both of these teams went into Week 18, because the Rams play the Seahawks in Week 18 to close out the year. So here, I'll break it down. If both of those teams go in with the same record, right? Or I'm sorry, if both of those teams go in with the same record, then that's whatever. Like, it's whoever has the better record is in. But if they go in where Seattle wins in Week 18 and then they have the same record, what happens there is that there are the first 4 tiebreakers are all actual ties, right? Head to head, divisional, conference, whatever. If the Rams lose to the Cardinals, it doesn't actually matter if the Seahawks win or lose this week, because now the Seahawks would just need to win next week and they'd have the divisional tiebreaker, right? So, if the Rams win and the Seahawks win this week, it's all but over for the Seahawks. They need divine intervention because it went down to strength of schedule. That was the final tiebreaker, which is why the Rams would have every out. So what I'm getting at is, like, you see these crazy, crazy tiebreakers where let's pull it up for the Vikings and Lions. I don't know. Here you go. If the Vikings win their remaining 2 games, this stuff's so important for betting in the final couple weeks of the year. It's so important. Like, Houston had nothing to play for on Christmas. They essentially locked up the 4 seed. They can't really move. And we saw how that ended. If the Vikings win the remaining 2 games, they win the NFC North and earn the number 1 seed, regardless of what the Eagles or Lions do. So, Andy, maybe we do put on the tinfoil hats and say a Vikings win here would be really nice for Week 18 playoff implications, deciding the number 1 seed, Lions versus Minnesota Vikings. Now, that would mean the Lions have to win as well.
Why?
What do you mean?
You need if
the Lions would have to win this week for next week.
Why?
Because, actually, no, I guess you're right.
Yeah, because if they were to lose and Minnesota wins, they're now 1 game behind Minnesota. They already beat Minnesota once, so if they beat them a second time, they'll have the same record and they'll have the tiebreaker.
Right. Yep, you're right.
So the most important thing, like I said, is Minnesota winning. You know, this is actually fascinating, Dave. They're enticing everybody to take the Vikings. The Vikings would help the NFL. So the tinfoil hat people, they should want the Vikings. The Sharps should want the Packers, but there is some overlap in there. Very fascinating. One thing that I do know about this game that I'm going to be I was interested all the way back earlier this season, and I'm going to be interested yet again because earlier in the year when we saw a split in the workload, that was to try to maintain, as they rightfully should, Aaron Jones's health. But now, and you've told me that week, there are a couple guys that you'll never say no to, and I believe Aaron Jones was on your list. They gave him any and every opportunity to score in that game. And we talked about Trey McBride being the glaring example as to why I don't bet touchdowns. I think that week of Aaron Jones was another one. He hit over on rushing almost every alt you can ask for, rushing and receiving, everything. 5 cracks at the end zone, doesn't get in. Couldn't have had a better game. Couldn't have made you more money. If you included a touchdown in anything, you lose everything. So without even that being the point, I think we will get another Aaron Jones against old team full opportunity here. Catches, carries, you name it. What do you think?
Yeah. Yes, no, maybe. I don't know. I mean, this game is so important to them. So are you saying that they would do that because he's facing the Packers, or just because this is a very meaningful game and he's the best guy they have in the backfield? Because
Oh,
I
well,
think he's by far the best guy they have in the backfield.
a little bit of both. But if there's anything that first game showed us, that game was out of reach. They marched this guy back out there and were just getting him anything they could. And this is when he was in that 55-45 split at the beginning of the year, if you remember that. Towards the early portion of the season, he was only getting like 55% of the work until they played the Vikings, until they played his old team, the Packers, and then they just gave him anything and everything. And I know this means so much, but A, that's the reason why I think he'll always be out there. And B, in the event we see the same Vikings that really kind of threw him a beating, I think he'll remain out there. I mean, I think he's getting a huge workload in this game.
I think it's the last thing on their minds. That was
All
week
right.
4. Look, it's good to have conversation, man.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It's week 4 compared to week 17. Critical game. I mean, this is just a huge game for them. And
what can the Packers do with their record in seeding?
I don't know. I was trying to think of. Oh, isn't that crazy too, though? That it's not just a 1 seed or not for like week 18. This is a 1 seed dropping down to a 5 seed. You see what I mean? Like whoever, one of them has to be a wild card. So it's not even a 1 or a 2 seed. This is a 1 seed with home field advantage, and then a road game on wild card weekend.
It's insane that 2 teams like the Packers, because the Packers have a fantastic record. I mean, we know this though. We remember
I'm
when
talking about the Vikings and the Lions.
I know, and I'm adding. Don't forget that the Packers are going to have more wins than a few of those teams as well that are sitting in front of them who are leading the division. So it's like, I mean, you're never going to get a better example than the defending Super Bowl champion New Orleans Saints going to a 7-9 Hasselbeck Seattle team, and then they got Marshawn lynched in the famous like earthquake game where he did where he did the big run, and they lost because of that whole playoff structure. So that home game really would be important. And I think for a team like the Vikings, I mean, Detroit, they kind of proved what they can do last year. You know, they went into San Francisco, played fantastic. If Dan Campbell wasn't a donkey, they probably win that game. But I think if they were like the 4 or 5, you got to like their chances to fight their way through it a little more than, is Darnold going to rattle off 3 straight road wins when, you know, you can always get that kind of implosion from him, although he hasn't demonstrated it since that one game, I think against like Carolina or wherever the hell it was a couple weeks back. But if they get that 1 seed, to me, the whole outlook for the Vikings changed. But I guess that's enough about that game in particular. Very fascinating, though.
I think the other side is really interesting with Josh Jacobs. The idea, and you can kind of see this one coming, where they come off a big win in Seattle, and then they face New Orleans. You don't think they're going to lay down in this spot? This didn't seem trappy to me because they needed that win. They could lock up a playoff spot with that, right? But there's no doubt that they had their sights set on the horizon of this Vikings game coming up. The reason I say that is because Josh Jacobs, who's been earning a massive workload, not surprisingly, saw only 13 carries in that game. You saw Chris Brooks with 6 attempts in that game. Emmanuel Wilson got involved as well. He had 11?
Yeah, it was a beating. It was a full beating.
Do we have a rushing attempt prop on Jacobs? Because this could be that game where they go, all right, feed the boy. Just get him the ball. I really think that they were resting, that they were giving this guy some rest in a game where it wasn't necessary. And let's not forget, they were doing this early in the game. Again, the writing was on the wall in a spot like this. The Saints are terrible.
It's not pulling it up yet. It's not. Okay, it's not pulling any. Not pulling any rushing attempts.
Does he have rushing yards? I don't mind that 70.5 at all. I think this guy's going to get worked.
I don't hate that either. I do not hate that either. Out of curiosity, we're looking at 92.5 rushing and receiving. This guy has been getting receiving work these last couple of games specifically. So if you had to go with one or the other, what do you think? Yo, that's a classic. It is a true mind fuck with me a lot. I look like there's a player this week. I'll pull him up in a second. I want to go under on him because for 15 years, these Tampa Bay Buccaneers know how to stop running backs, including last week. And you could say it's nothing, but he's been having some pretty good weeks. But they gave nothing to Rico Dowdle. And I believe I want to go with the under on Chuba Hubbard, set at 100 yards, essentially, for rushing and receiving in Tampa Bay with nothing to play for. The last game went to overtime, and he eclipsed this only because it went to overtime, and he had runs of like 25 and 30. So, I don't know, man. 100 yards, essentially, rushing and receiving for Chuba Hubbard. But before we talk about that, I guess, how do you feel about that, Jacobs?
Jacobs, I'd probably still go rushing there. Okay. I went over rushing plus receiving on Xavier Worthy on Christmas because I think it was like an additional 7 yards or something like that, right, from the receiving prop. I'm willing to do that because the guy so there are certain spots. You're right. Jacobs does get used in the passing game. It's the thing is though, like that put it up like another 23, 22 yards that we'd have to clear.
Yeah,
I'd rather. Wasn't it 92.5?
Yeah, it did. You're correct. No, you're correct.
Yeah, I'd rather just go rushing. I like what you're on to with the Chuba Hubbard thing, by the way. Also, I think Tampa probably comes in and smacks this Carolina team around. I said it last week. I was like, the Dallas Cowboys, this is the clearest spot to take the Cowboys. The clearest spot. I didn't bet it. I didn't have the balls. But I said it in my video. I was like, this is the clearest spot to bet the Cowboys. I did bet Carolina. Loved that spot against Arizona. Didn't bet them outright. Bet the spread. Carolina, again, they're going to rope people back in, Andy, just as they did when people bet them at home against the Cowboys, and the Cowboys won outright. And then everyone gets off of Carolina. Arizona, huge game. Got to bet Arizona, and Carolina wins, right? Now, everyone's going to, not everyone, but people are going to be like, okay, not bad. And the Tampa Bay Bucks just lost to Dallas. Is this not just a clear hammer spot on Tampa at 7.5?
Everyone goes to the area where the gold was already mined. And they go, I heard there was gold over there. And they go there, and then there's just an empty, there's no gold here. Oh, wait, did you hear? There's gold in Dallas. And then they run over there, and then it's empty. That's who these sports bettors are.
That's a good way to look at it.
Chasing last week's empty pot of the leprechaun's gold. And that's, I guess, what they're going to be doing once again.
That's a good way to look at it, man. It's so true. Yep.
Well, we talked about how every once in a while here, I'm going to really make an absurd analogy and try to pull it back. There's one on the day for you. The empty
That wasn't
pots
absurd. That was great.
Of leprechaun's gold. Going back up here a little bit, looking at some of this weekend's games, ones that really don't move the needle for me too much. I'll probably just kind of glance by, like this Chargers-Patriots. Come on, man. Are the Patriots going to care? Are they not going to care? I really don't know. But I do know if, just once again on a macro level, if things play out in the way that you think they will play out, it lines up the Chargers to play Houston in Houston round 1, which is a winnable game, which would give Mahomes a round 1 matchup for him which would be a round 2 playoff matchup against either Houston or the Chargers. And if I were them, I would want no part of the Chargers the way Herbert always plays against the Chiefs. Both games this year, he was up on them relatively late, and that last game just a few weeks ago came down to a final field goal.
Yeah.
That could be pretty interesting because there is no team more upset, more ripe for an upset than the 15-1 teams from yesteryear who don't play a meaningful snap for 3 weeks. They always come out a little rickety in that first half, and then they kind of chase in the back half. There are many teams we've seen like that throughout the course of history.
Absolutely.
I kind of don't even, I don't want to lump the Chiefs in there because they always seem ready. And who has more second half comebacks than Mahomes? So I don't want to get too far ahead. I just found that potential round 2 Chargers-Chiefs matchup pretty intriguing from just kind of a fan's perspective.
Chargers to cover, Chiefs to win. That's just the way I'm not saying you bet both. What I'm saying is Herbert just always covers against the Chiefs, always, and then always finds a way for them to, or I should say the Chiefs, Mahomes always finds a way to win it. Every single game I think that Herbert has played against the Chiefs has been decided by a one score.
Yeah, always. Always.
Yeah.
Even when they had bad teams and they were getting blown out by the Raiders, they somehow always kept it close with the Chiefs.
Every loss, I should say. I think he had a win in Week 18, but all the starters sat for Kansas City, and I think they blew him out. But I'm with you. I kind of like the Chargers here. I might be willing to lay 4.5 against the Patriots. I think you Harbaugh could get him up for that.
You gotta Dan like it's 2024. Is
that a Dan spot?
Come on, it's just the classic good team against, oh my God, the Patriots, they're awful. Give me the Chargers.
There's been some weird lines too that it's like they look like Dan spots, but then you go, the Packers on Monday. I tried to figure out every way that I could make a case for the Saints being a play at +4. I got this Packers at 13.5 earlier in the week, but then you got to do a Thursday video. And I said, I'm telling you, I'll never lie to you, but I'm trying to figure everything out. Like some of these 14.5s, all roads just lead back to the Packers. All roads lead back to how do the Saints move? How do they move the football? I know it's just one game, but I do think, Andy, there are some times where you look at a game and you just go, I can't see it. No matter, I can't see it the other side.
Thursday Night Football, they played the Broncos with that quarterback. They couldn't get a first down the entire game.
Right. They had a little garbage time production late. That was it.
So they even gave you a little preview of what that was like. That was my streamer defense because, it was available in 2 leagues. I'm playing the Packers. Yeah. I'm playing the fucking Packers. I want to see this guy. They prepared in a restaurant freezer or whatever the hell that story was for the game. I mean, whatever that was, that ain't going to help. So I just knew that game in Lambeau. This next one here, it was what you've heard me say this a million times. I wish it was 2.5 because right back to Murphy's Law, Denver wins. There goes any sort of drama for the following week. Bengals are winning this game. I can't do the 3.5. I know. I think if you took it very early, it was 3, right? Or was there a 2.5 at one point?
I didn't see a 2.5. There may have been. I didn't see it.
I like them to win here for sure. Can't do it by 3.5, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I've been riding the Bengals for a few weeks now. Jumped on them for Dallas. We got super lucky in that game. Super lucky with that punt. Remember that punt?
Yep.
There's zero reason I should have won that bet.
As my uncle said, sorry, I don't watch the games. I make my picks, check the paper. Looks like I won. So it looks like you won.
But there's also a lot of Bengals games I bet this year and lost that they just shouldn't have lost. It goes both ways. But no, well, you had that game, and then you're like, okay, they got Tennessee. They got to come in and lay it to them. They did, even though their defense stinks. And then Cleveland, I didn't care. I think I laid 7.5 on Cincy against Cleveland. They're dead. They're lifeless. The Cleveland Browns are lifeless. And Dorian Thompson-Robinson, make no mistake about it. You think Winston was bad. That guy is way worse than Winston. So
that's my streamer this week, by the way. I'm just going to hope on the road, the Dolphins D does some work.
Yeah, why not?
In the finals.
I'm with you, though, here. I don't.
I had to withstand yet another white 30-year-old receiver Cooper Kupp trying to screw me again. But the heroes, once again, James Cook and Devon Achane. James Cook is really working his way into my heart after these fantasy playoffs, I'll tell you. He's got like 6 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks, over 100 both games. He is murdering when I need it the most. What is Cooper Kupp doing? Can he go over his 48 or whatever I saw receiving total this week? In ideal weather conditions, against the Cardinals?
He should. But I don't really know if there's anything there. Honestly, this is the game I was telling you about earlier in the show. This win is everything for them. Again, if they win this game, they essentially lock up the NFC West. So
that cuts both ways. A little extra nerves. Sometimes you play,
If I could find a 7, I think I'd grab the Cardinals. The Cardinals are coming off that loss against Carolina. Who in their right mind, that doesn't really see it,
Yeah. Out of curiosity, when was the last time the Cardinals played well? Was it like 8 weeks ago? I feel like I have not seen them play very well in a game. There was that streak where their defense was just somehow playing incredible. But has this offense been has Marvin Harrison had a good week all season? What is going on with this guy? What's going on with their offense?
I don't know.
And also, when I see Murray run, I see him get caught these days more often than I ever used to see. He used to cockroach his way around everyone. That's not the case anymore. And if you take that away from him, I know he's still mobile. I know he can still run very fast. But he used to almost be borderline like cheat code-esque, where nobody could ever get a hand on the guy.
Yeah.
So if you take away just a little of that, and I think that's kind of what happened, we're seeing some massive struggles there.
This feels to me like a Rams win, Cardinals cover type of game.
Yep. But I can't click. This is a stay away from me.
I hear you, but man, that 6.5 is going to entice so many people to bet the Rams. Who would ever want to take the Cardinals at plus 6.5 inside of a touchdown?
So unless I'm incorrect here, what do we think of a Jalen Hurts-less Philadelphia Eagles?
I'm not laying 7.5. Let's see what Barkley's props are.
They're about 100 rushing yards.
I would take the over. I'm serious. I mean, obviously, I'm just saying that. Like, I have to look a little bit more into it. But
let's start. Okay, so they have nothing for rushing and receiving. Now, I think Jalen Hurts was just declared, right?
He's not going to play. Yeah, there's no way this guy plays. I don't think.
We got Barkley looking at 108.
Well, it's a big number.
Oh my God, Dave, I want you to say it. Say, give me the over on 108.5.
And he had 29 attempts. We talked about Barkley last week. He had 29 rushing attempts last week.
A, thank you for getting me off of that. B, I would have loved to know what it would have been had Hurts not left in like the first quarter or whatever.
For sure. I mean, definitely above 20 still. Well, actually, maybe less, because he would have been more effective and he would have housed 2 more of them. Because people don't understand how much Jalen Hurts opens up the run game. It's not just the offensive line. Hurts opens it up a remarkable amount. Saquon Barkley had like 100 plus and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. And then after Hurts went down, Barkley was bottled up for the rest of the game. So that's why I was asking about rushing attempts and not rushing yards, because there is a dynamic there that makes me uncomfortable with Hurts not being back there.
I will say this. I only gave out 2 futures bets before the season that I said, look, these are my favorites. I've told you about it. I really kind of, I want to say, lucked my way into at worst a draw. But one was, and I want you to remember what they said it at, James Cook over 3.5 rushing touchdowns. That was his season-long prop. I believe he's at 15 or something.
That's a crazy number.
But it was because last year he got like no looks at the goal line.
Right.
But they had Latavius Murray and the dude from New England, Damian Harris. Yeah.
Harris, yeah.
So they got all the touchdowns. They were both gone. And now Who did they bring in? They were like, oh well, Ray. Okay, the draft pick's about to just get all this goal line work. I said no, and I was just telling people to destroy that. There was that one which covered by week 4, and then I thought New England. I thought the Eagles, as I told you earlier in the season, it was going to look like San Fran, but because of like the arguing and the ruckus has maintained. Yet somehow the Eagles, I don't know, maybe it's just something about the city of Philly. They thrive with chaos and throwing beer at Santa Claus. They're not worried at all.
Or a
They
lot of
looked
it's
great.
bullshit. Like that, it's that's the type of market where that stuff thrives, and it's not even like it's
Some of the
happening
shit's weird with Sirianni when he argues with fans. And
I don't like that. I can't.
Hurts has
stand
to
it.
calm him down. The QB has to calm down the
Oh,
coach.
it's horrible.
There's
stuff.
something weird about that to me.
I don't like it either. But I think every team has some internal dealings that, maybe some just become more public than others. Anyway, go ahead.
So the only other one that I gave that I just felt supremely confident, and I told you I was feeling good early, then not good at all, was the Chiefs -1 wins over the Philadelphia Eagles. So really, you need 2 wins. You get your money back if they end up with one more win. So I'm currently at money back guaranteed. I'm going to need either the backups for the Chiefs to win next week or the Eagles to drop one of 2. Not going to be easy to happen, but without Hurts, I now have a prayer. But at least it's a push, worst case scenario.
I like it. I mean, the Chiefs, they ran so hot.
I know.
It's crazy.
I know.
But now they look really good, right? You've seen, these back-to-back weeks where you go, oh, there they are. And it's not all just Hollywood Brown's return. They're clicking. And that's the last thing any opponent wants to see is the Kansas City Chiefs clicking finally as the season comes to an end. Not good.
You see that in the NHL, by the way. You see that a lot with the really good teams.
Baseball's very similar in that respect. The team could sneak in as a wild card and, win the World Series. But I'm not laying 7.5 on the Eagles, not without Hurts.
2 carnival games right here. I guess you could say it means something for the Colts, but in my opinion, anytime Anthony Richardson plays, you have yourself the makings of a carnival game in both good ways and bad.
Definitely.
Anything from your breakdowns or whatnot that you see between these 2 games, the Colts-Giants and the Titans-Jaguars, this is exact carnival football.
No. Aside from the fact that the Giants would be very wise to continue losing games intentionally at this point. They control their own destiny as far as a draft pick goes, right?
Correct.
If they just, I don't think there's another 2-win team. I think they are the only 2-win team in football.
Correct. Yeah. After the Raiders won.
And the Panthers won.
Oh my God. Look at that game on the bottom.
Oh
my God.
Yeah, how about that? Dude.
Oh my God.
I'll tell you the truth.
Aren't the Raiders light years better with O'Connell at quarterback than Rattler?
Well, is Derek Carr, would they be dumb enough to bring Derek Carr back?
If there is anything that Derek Carr will do, as you saw a couple weeks ago, and as I told you all year, he will ruin your year by not winning and then ruin your draft pick by winning when you don't need it. That's the Derek Carr experience. If he's fighting to get back.
They're hopeful that he's going to be back against this former team, no less. So, yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's even so, just 2 pitiful football teams. Yeah, I don't know. They wouldn't be crazy enough to bring a Chris Olave back, would they? Like, are they really going to
activate him? Didn't they activate his window?
I think he's coming back, which is just
oh my God! Oh my God!
Chris Olave turns in full practice after the Saints designated Olave to return from injured reserve last week. He managed 3 limited sessions before the team ruled him out ahead of Monday's loss to Green Bay. He wouldn't have, we should
That's
probably
insane.
be betting the Saints.
That's insane that they're letting them play.
Dude, I don't get it. I don't understand. But yeah, we could have Derek Carr back with Chris Olave this week.
Do the Bills have anything to play for?
Yeah.
They can't get the 1 anymore.
No, but the 2.
Oh, the Ravens can catch them?
So,
because they beat them head to head.
So here's the thing. I was thinking about this earlier, right, when we were looking at these games. If the Bills win this game, they lock up the 2. And then basically week 18 means nothing. So you would think that this game is important, and then if they get the win, then next week means nothing. Like basically
True.
Basically they don't have to. Some coaches, and I know McDermott's interesting with that stuff in the preseason and everything, meaningless games, whatever. They could just rest starters next week if they win this week.
That 100% is going to be the case, unless Josh Allen does it for the MVP. But I don't think after what's happened to him in the playoffs the last couple of years,
that's really
12-3 at the forefront of his mind. Yes.
Okay. And the Ravens are,
I think they have
11-5, but they already played this week.
So they won, and they beat them head to head. So they'll probably have one more win for the Bills will do it. So they'll probably get it at home this week. Dolphins, Browns. Finally, we got to see Achane break one on the ground at the end of the game last game. Finally, for
he
my own
iced
greedy
the game with that.
Yeah, for my greedy benefits, I'm hoping that continues. Anything he, I mean, it's just so weird when evaluating certain teams that have nothing to play for, have, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and Jerry Jeudy went from catching 200 yards per game to can't even get to like 20. The
Dolphins aren't eliminated yet.
Correct. They have a lot to play for.
But it's also a very narrow path for them to get in. I don't think I want 6.5 though on the road. Do you? I don't want that. I'm good. Are there 2 Monday night games again?
No, I think we have a Sunday night and a Monday night.
Well, okay, wait. What's the Packers and Vikings?
The Packers and Vikings?
Is that a 4 o'clock game? Oh, okay. Yes. That's what I missed. Yep, got it. I thought it was a Sunday night game for some reason. Yeah.
You're looking ahead to Lions-Vikings next week.
Yeah, Falcons-Commanders, 4.5. Probably Command. I don't know.
I don't know if I trust this. I mean, man, that rookie had the defense handed him 3 touchdowns or whatever before he had to even do so. I don't know if I trust this rookie.
No, Michael Penix didn't really do much at all. They fed Bijan and the defense dominant. The defense, you're right. The defense did everything in that game.
Oh, you're talking about what I hate. 2 quarterbacks to me who have just a handful of starts. Anything and everything could happen there. I will say, one last game. That's a rat special, and I'm happy to end on it. I'm happy to end on the Niners plus 3.5 at home.
Quick take on Commanders game for you real quick. Big statement win last week against the Eagles. Even though the broadcast team in that game decided they wouldn't mention for 60 minutes that Jalen Hurts was not playing. That was the wildest thing I've ever seen, where I'm watching this game. Mind you, I'm an Eagles fan, so I'm already like, here it goes. But then I hear it, and they're like, can you believe it? This is miraculous, unbelievable, 5 turnovers. It's like, dude, Kenny Pickett is the quarterback, and they won on the 5. I'm not taking anything away. Jaden Daniels was awesome.
Were you watching that last play, by the way? I have no rooting interest in it, other than I wanted the Eagles to lose, not because of you, just to fucking guarantee that I pushed that bet.
Sure.
But as soon as they snapped that ball, I go, that's a bad false start. And then the play just played out. I mean, when I'm just, because, I got my computer up and I was kind of half watching. I go, oh, that's a bad false start. And I'm watching it play. I'm like, all right, well, where? I go, they let that go. Lot of ammo for the tinfoil hat crowd on that play in particular that I saw. That was bad. Yeah. That was bad.
It was bad for sure. All right, so Lions-Niners, you say it's a rat game?
Oh, to me, it's a clear-cut rat. Give me happily the happy 49ers selection, plus 3.5.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, I have zero worry in the world. For a whole multitude of reasons, some outside of this. But regardless, the last game of the week, The last game of oh my God, that is Niners plus 3.5. Rat that home getting. I mean, I've talked about it. I don't have to think about it, but this one I really feel good about because they still are capable of pulling what you saw 2 weeks ago, a great home performance, and in a lost year, a win that you can have to screw the Lions, who are vulnerable. Look what happened to them 2 weeks ago. They have to throw it a ton. If the pass rush even gets through a little bit, let's see what happens here. I think these Niners can win this game outright, let alone cover this spread. I feel very good about the Niners here.
This is a fun way to close it out. Give me
Definitely.
the Lions.
Perfect way to end week 17. Dave, thank you for making the time. Day after
man.
Christmas. You know, it feels a lot better than the day after Thanksgiving where you just continue to be a slob. Not that much of a carryover or rollover. A little bit, but not to the same extent. Thank you so much once
dude,
again.
I feel all of the slob after effects from yesterday.
Okay, maybe it was just me. Maybe it was just me. I guess we'll have to talk about that next week.
I'll be back to 100 by tomorrow, 100%.
For the full carnival, week 18.
Ooh,
full carnival where who knows what we're even going to talk about. Probably more nonsense than not. Thank you guys so much for coming back. I guess you enjoyed this. You're not getting a ton of stuff coming out over this stretch of time. That's why we wanted to show you how much y'all meant to us. And what can you do for us? You can give us those belated Christmas gifts. I was that guy who just had to send a text to my brother. I got you these sneakers. They're not here yet. That's what you can do for us. The belated gift. Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah, he just woke up to a text of a picture of a shoe. And you guys can leave us comments. Let us know how you're feeling. Let us know about everything you talked about. Go visit Dave over on Odd Shopper. Check his videos out.
Yeah, we'll see you in 2025.
The year of the Dave, because the year of the Dan will come to a close.
Let's hope.
All right, take it easy, guys. See you next week.